This week's guest is not only a phenomenal actress who's given us timeless performances in films like Dirty Dancing and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, she's also been in a very underrated sitcom that I personally watched every episode of. It's Like You Know. Yes. She's also a writer who penned the incredibly moving memoir Out of the Corner. And now, according to everyone who's seen it, including us, you are a scene stealer in Jesse Eisenberg's A Real Pain, which is out in theaters now. Please welcome to Keep It, Jennifer Grey.
Okay, dudes, seriously? I am not, I mean, that's a lovely intro. I really feel like I always want to under promise and over, what's the expression? Under promise, over deliver. Because I am not a scene stealer. I am literally a beautiful garnish on their incredible entree. I am just a beautiful lemon slice or a sprig of fresh.
Mint.
Yes, I'm just a sprig of something delightful. But I am really a very, not even tertiary. I'm like a fortiary. I'm well down the line. So let's just know that I'm grateful to be in this gorgeous movie.
Well, this is such an interesting movie because it has these really strong personalities, and yet it's a very subdued movie. So it feels like you have to strike a balance between, exhibiting these big personality traits, and then also it's this really contemplative film. So what was just the vibe on set putting this movie together?
It was such a seamless and very fluid experience. I received the script with an offer. I saw who was involved. I was saying yes before I got past the cover letter. The cover letter was like, Jesse Eisenberg has written the script. Okay, I'm already in. He's directing it. Okay, great, even better. Oh, he's starring in it. Awesome. He's wonderful. I always feel safest with really smart people. And there's nobody smarter in my opinion right now. Like I can't even think of anybody. He's so deep and smart. And I knew that even though I'd never met him. And then I saw, and Kieran Culkin will be playing Benji. And I was like a crazy, rabid Succession fan. And specifically a rabid fan of Kieran's, although we'd never met. And so I was just in. And then they said, it shoots in Poland, which I've never been to. And we'll shoot part of the time in a concentration camp, which I've never been to. And as a Jew, I have always thought it was something I wanted to do, but it wasn't something that I was never offered it. So then I went, well, of course I'm going to do it. It ticks all the boxes of a new experience, going to a new place and incredible people. And it was before Will Sharp was involved. And then when he got at it, I was like, yummy. Yes, please. And so I said yes in my head. And then I read it. And the script was perfect. It was like I saw the movie while reading it. I sat down. I didn't get up. I laughed out loud reading it. And then I don't know if I cried, but I felt deep feelings. And I went, well, this is like, it was just like one of those things where like the heavens opened up and someone who in the universe who loves me very much said, here, honey, here. I'm going to give you this. This is a gift. And when I showed up, I did a Zoom with him. It was, pending a Zoom, a little awkward, like, oh, nice to meet you, whatever, awkward because it's Jesse and me, both of us awkward. And, and I went to Poland. We'd had no rehearsal. I got there. I did costume fitting. I wrote Jesse a long monologue about my costume and how I thought my character would come up with this costume. And basically that was all the prep. We did one read through. Emma Stone is one of the producers, as well as her Fruit Tree production. And they were there for the read through. And then we started shooting and we never talked about the scenes. We never talked about the character. We just started shooting. And I think it was a 25-day shoot. And we were on trains, we were in buses, we were moving locations, and we were shooting for one shooting day in a concentration camp. And he did it all with a very tight budget. And it was easy peasy, just like show up, work with great people who are top of their field. That's it. It was just like, that's how he, there were no rewrites. There was no changing dialogue. There were no surprises. It was just very, like, Jesse had worked the script through perfectly.
You sound relieved to be reporting this. Like maybe this is not the traditional movie making experience.
I mean, it's almost unheard of. There was no tension. It was just like we shoot. I mean, like there was like, edgy nervousness because we're dealing with nervous Jews, just like, we're just like anxious people. But basically it was a creatively flawless, like there was a lot of flow. And there was no misbehaviors, no Star Trek. Everyone was just very real and very grounded, and we had work to do, and we cared about it, and we respected it, and we trusted each other, and it was just heavenly.
That process sounds great, and also it doesn't surprise me given that Jesse Eisenberg, I've seen his plays as well, him as a playwright. The dialogue and the characters in this are just so well drawn, and hearing that you sort of met one another and then didn't really do a rehearsal, like that opening scene, to describe it for everybody, is you're all going on a remembrance tour. You're going through Poland, and you're visiting a concentration camp, and you're all strangers. And so what was it like then building, I guess, your chemistry on set, particularly with Kieran, because you have a lot of scenes with him. And it's interesting to hear, I guess, that you were developing that as you were shooting it then and hadn't developed it during a rehearsal process.
Exactly right. Because it was like art imitating life, or whatever way it goes. Because what we did was we were strangers. We were doing that first scene. We almost shot the movie chronologically. I mean, it's very, our first day was shooting that, where we all introduce ourselves to each other. And, immediately I, overshare, as I'm wont to do in life. But I don't know how Jesse knew that. He just maybe knew, just some part of him knew that I could be an oversharer. So I did that, and I talked about how I had just come out of this really bad marriage. Not a bad marriage, a 20-year marriage that blew up, and my husband left me and for some younger woman. And I left my life in LA with, my adult kids who'd all become, like, everyone had just become very bourgeois and kind of lost the plot. And I am in my character's in this tipping point of, it's not a tipping point, it's like an inflection point where like my life blew up. And so I don't know who I am anymore, and I don't remember who I used to be, but I know it's not what I now am, and I'm longing for meaning and real. And so she sees this guy, and he's just so real. It's like a tonic for her. It's like her medicine. And he sees her, and he's so alive, and he's so honest, and it's just everything that she needs at that moment in time.
It's interesting that you say that, though, because this character, even though he is unfiltered, he's also like boisterous and like kind of says the wrong thing at length a lot of the time. Like he'll take over our room at random. But your reaction to the character is so even keel. Is that something you had to rehearse, or did he have kind of like a natural charisma through all these weirdo character traits that you actually did respond to that way?
It's interesting. I feel that Kieran, the actor, is like charisma incarnate. It's just like he's just got magic, like sparks flying off of him, and his lack of actoriness, he really is just raw and himself, and he's just not full of shit, and it's just so refreshing. So when he is out of place, or he's socially very he's very he doesn't have the social protocol. And I think because my character's also a mother and I'm a mother, that motherly empathetic part of myself is really in play, and really feeling him and seeing his pain and seeing him as someone who is hurting and needs, like maybe someone who was not mothered is my feeling. And whenever I see someone who looks like they were really damaged and not mothered, I think, God, what if I'm the first mother they've ever met? You know, what if they just need some care and some understanding to come alongside them instead of judging them, instead of discarding them? You know, what if, I just think that people, if they're resonating with your soul, which he does, Kieran does with me, and the character does with my character, they're both happening. And all I could see is, I'm curious, and I also feel protective of him.
For such a serious film, it's also incredibly funny. And I want to ask you, I guess, where you first developed your sense of humor, your comic timing. I mean, for anyone who's seen you as Jeannie Bueller, and one of those early roles of yours, you're so funny in that. And then I brought up the sitcom It's Like You Know. For our listeners who don't remember this 2-season show from ABC, you know, you played yourself on this sitcom in sort of an LA satire show. So, you know, like, when did you first realize, I guess, that you had comic timing and that you were funny as a person?
I don't know. I mean, I've always thought I was funny. Not everyone thinks I'm funny, but I've always, like, I make myself laugh all the time. Like, I amuse myself a lot, and I am friends with really funny people. I'm attracted to funny people. Like, I actually don't think I'm friends with anyone who's not funny. And I think the funny, smart thing is, it's like I'm not like Rodney Dangerfield funny. Like, there's a lot of brands of funny, you know, but I think, I don't know, it's just like a trait. Like, my daughter, who's 22, she's been funny since she was born. She's just funny. And her mind is funny. How she sees things is funny. And, like, she'll just text me something, and like 4 times a week of the texts I get every day, I'll be like, you're the funniest person I know. Like, just, it's a way of looking at the world. And also, I come from I have my grandfather was a famous Jewish comedian. And I think that comedy is very much the reason there are so many Jewish comedians, and there's a lot of history around Jewish comedians, is that it was a way of, when I was writing my book, I did some research about it, and I was trying to understand. And Mike Nichols had been a friend of mine, and there are certain people who would explain that when Jews came here and they were so worried about, you know, how much they were hated, they would make themselves small or make themselves funny, and like, I'm not a threat. And they would do that kind of what's it called? When you just put yourself down, or just like thank you. Brain's a little jet lag. But the self-deprecating humor is like, you know, showing your belly. I'm not a threat. I won't hurt you. And maybe it's also like the kind of gesture thing. Like, I'll make you laugh, and I'll bring you towards me. And I feel like, I don't know if it's also a very great technique when you're dealing with trauma or devastation or tragedy. Like, as a people, if you're, you know, talking about basically, I think it's a great reliever, like, of how to manage it and how to bear it. And I feel like that was what Jesse so deftly has done in this movie, because it's essentially a human movie about smart, funny people, right? Or written by a smart, funny person. And the way Jesse deals with the heaviness of the way he's made up is through comedy. And so therefore the movie gives you all of these moments of relief when it just got so heavy or so sad. So instead of playing into that or doing any of those cheap things that people can do to manipulate, he deflects, or he gives us relief.
Now, I can't reveal my sources here, but I heard that once upon a time, you had a Word document where you collected words and phrases that sounded Jewish but aren't.
Correct.
Okay, this is one of the most amazing things I've ever heard. Words like
I want to know
spatula.
I want to know who told you this.
I know, it's a pretty deep cut. My friend.
I
Andrew,
really want to know.
You know who Andrew Colon is? He's one of my best friends in LA. So somebody you met like years and years ago, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's something I'm asked about a lot because
Oh, really? Because it's
Yes.
an awesome. The spatula. I mean, I'm laughing. What like spurred this idea?
Okay, so Mike Nichols is the first person who started this game with me. And in my Filofax, I used to have a list of them. And I looked at my old Filofaxes and I haven't been able to find the list, which is really pains me. But I'll give you a couple of ideas. Here's the rules of the game.
Okay.
You can't say it with a Yiddish or Jewish accent. You have to say it straight, like just as it's said, and it should sound like Yiddish, right? So a word like velvet or dais or ziplock or boxkite or boyish appeal
Boyish appeal.
or moisten. So there are a lot of them, but it's a really fun game. And people ask me all the time, what's the list? What's the list? I said, I don't have the list, but I could remember some of them. But the idea is you say the word completely normally and it sounds like Yiddish.
We need more Word docs like that just in life. I don't know. That
Yeah.
really added something to my day. Okay.
It wasn't a Word doc. It was before Word docs. It
Oh,
was
wow.
like, it was the back of the Filofax piece of paper.
Oh, literally, like filing it away, like in a card catalog.
No,
Yeah.
no, Filofax was, honey, you don't know what a Filofax
I'm just 38. I can't help. I don't know what that is.
Okay, do you know what a Filofax was? It was an English leather day planner with, it's like an address book in the back and with your
Oh,
calendar.
yes.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, we had those, Louis.
Okay, whatever. Maybe. Yeah. I don't.
Week
not
at
that
a
organized.
glance. Did you ever have Week at a glance? No.
No.
No. Yeah, we used to write like animals with pens and paper.
Really crude. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, the family you come from, and of course, Lewis and I were big fans of your father, Joel Grey. And thinking about Wicked being out now, I remember seeing him in it, and I'm
As
just
the wizard.
wondering,
He was the first wizard.
Yes. I'm wondering if you have any maybe memories from seeing your father on stage in The Wicked or any of his other shows, really, that sort of like have stayed with you.
Well, just starting with Wicked, I remember when he was doing it. I remember him rehearsing it, and I had just had. Maybe I was pregnant, and so I wasn't in New York. I was here, and maybe my baby was little, and we made our first trip to New York, and it was in dress rehearsal. So I went to the dress rehearsal, and I could not believe what I was seeing and hearing. Adina and Kristen, their voices melding in those duets, and just that. I mean, imagine. Like, sometimes there's music that you have to hear a bunch of times, and then you fall in love with it. This score, I'd never heard a note, a word, and I heard it and I was like, this is magic. This is so major. And I was like, this is going to be a huge hit because it gave you that feeling of, especially when you don't expect anything, right? And it gave me that feeling of like buoyancy, like flying yourself when you come out, that thing of like, I just saw something really big. But my dad has been in so many unbelievable firsts. I mean, I was, because you read my book. I think you read my book, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Both of you did all your homework. Did you read the Cliff Notes or the actual book? Did you listen or did you read?
I have the physical copy of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the book, I describe how my entire life, my dad has been on stage. So that's the only job I knew anyone ever had. I knew people had jobs, backstage and there were dressers, but I didn't really, that's all I know is that he performed. And so I would always go and watch him. And when he was doing the stage production of Cabaret, I would go with him in matinees. I was 6 when he started it and he did it till I was 8. So I would go on matinees and I would sit in the wings and I'd watch him do the makeup. And I was always very captivated by the whole process of watching him go from daddy walking down the street, in 40th or 6th or whatever it was, to like sitting in there and watching him change, and then the dresser, and then him going on stage as this other person. And I was raised with that incredible music of Cabaret. The music is so incredible. The score is so extraordinary today, ever since. And then when I was 10, he went to Germany to do the movie. And so Bob Fosse, Liza Minnelli, Michael York, and I go there and it's, even more bizarre and real and much more gritty. But now I'm older, so I can kind of understand better about the Nazism and the violence of it, because the musical version was much softer, as you can imagine. And so all of a sudden you see a much more visceral, evil, scary, like terrifying, the beginning of Nazi Germany and the beginning of them taking over and the violence. And I had been raised, I read The Diary of Anne Frank as a girl. When I saw the stage play, I had to be explained, what swastikas were and why was this happening. And I didn't understand because I lived in New York. I thought everyone was Jewish. It was normal. I never considered why anyone wouldn't love or would hate. I didn't understand. I grew up in a very diverse world. And New York City in the 60s was very mixed. And it was good. And we loved it that way, And so there was just that. But having watched him do so many musicals and so much, and what he did, The Normal Heart. He replaced,
Yes.
He played the lead in The Normal Heart. And so there was just growing up around AIDS, the AIDS epidemic, and that play, and Larry Kramer, and all of that. I mean, all of those things, he's been involved in so many important moments in history and art representing history and important things, but done with so much artistry and virtuosity. So I feel very, very lucky that that's been what I've been raised on.
Yeah.
It must be said, speaking of your own artistry, though, in the canon of John Hughes characters, it's so weird that he is often described as he gave us characters that were relatable to teenagers everywhere, namely us, cloistered suburbanites. I think the most relatable character in the John Hughes canon is Jeannie in Ferris Bueller. There's something about her. I feel like, unlike all of his other characters, something about her was she was already an adult and she already had this earned cynicism about her, and all the world kept doing was confirming the cynicism to her. And
wait, you identified
quite.
So you were
me.
Jeannie. So let's just say
I was a
so
Jeannie.
basically,
Ding.
yes, right. That was the archetype for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I don't feel like I hear that often. Do you feel like it's a character that people relate to?
I think the feeling of life is unfair to me and it's easier for everybody else is a very universal feeling, because you don't actually know the shit everyone else is dealing with. It's just you're comparing your insides to their outsides, right? And so the idea of why is always everything? Why does he always? And the idea of being a jealous sibling is also, I think, very relatable to people, because there's the baby. I don't know. I didn't have this in my family. Actually, I did. My brother was so beautiful and I was the interesting looking one. And I was like, oh my God. Okay, so he's beautiful, but I'm beautiful in my way. I think there's always that kind of family dynamic of comparisons or favorites. And I think that when you go from your personal experience to what you perceive someone else's experience is, it's easy to have it be skewed through your brain, which is, oh, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And if anything, she would have gotten along probably better with Cameron if they'd, been able to be friends. That's who I relate it to the most. In the movie,
I love that you're Cameron
honest.
and you're Jeannie. That's
right.
wild.
We should really build this podcast that way. Yeah.
Wait, tell me why. Tell me about you and Cameron.
I feel like Cameron is sort of, obviously everyone wants to be that troublemaker, Dennis the Menace kind of Ferris Bueller character, but I don't know, there's something about that person in school who sort of looks up to their friend a bit more because maybe they have more freedom in their life. It's sort of that other perceived thing of their life is better than mine. And then, with the things that Cameron has going on at home with his father, it's very relatable to me. And so, I feel like, Ferris is a good fantasy world for him to jump into until the end when he's sort of I don't want to be in the fantasy world anymore.
Interesting. I mean, isn't it funny? I think every good piece of art or movie, I'm calling it art, not to be pretentious, but these are pretty.
Oh, it's Smithsonian worthy. Okay.
The truth is that if it's done well, everybody sees it through their own lens, right? And everyone gets to tell the story, that their story through that it's what they see. And I'm just curious, do you relate more to Benji or to David? Or to me?
I am a David. Yes. As in, like, I want that person with the crazy personality to bring it down to a low murmur. Yes. If you will, I'm a Jeannie Bueller in the movie A Real Pain. Yes.
Okay, what about you?
I could relate to parts of David where you're sort of always worried about what other people are thinking.
That's what I thought.
But the Benji outbursts a bit can sometimes be me. You know,
like do you feel
anxious.
that's like when you're really like at a 10 of like you lose it,
Yes.
but then you can hold it together?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely relate, to the dinner scene where he's talking about, just how he's perceived by his family.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, there's, I don't want to spoil things for people, but there's the real gut punch moment where Jesse Eisenberg mentioned something,
Yeah.
So I think it's a beautiful sort of portrayal of two cousins, and it's relatable to anybody, both characters.
Yeah, and I feel like
they
they could be parts of the same person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you could have an inner Benji and be and like I think I really feel like I have both within me. Like I can hold it together and look like I've just got it together and be kind of controlled and nervous and managing everything and just assuming everything's going to go badly and all, and then I have the kind of part of me that when I'm kind of more in flow, it's more like Kieran, which is just like, fuck it, I don't care. I don't fucking care. Go fuck yourself. I don't care,
Yeah.
Now, to bring it back to Alan Ruck for a minute, I feel like you are not asked enough about the movie Bloodhounds of Broadway, which
You're
is
so cute.
Amazing reaction to that tidbit. Where you have a duet with Madonna, where you sing this old jazz standard called "I Surrender, Dear," which is my favorite part of the movie. And as you discussed,
now you're just really flirting. Cut it out.
He's a number one Madonna fan.
I do have to say,
so,
you stumbled into something. You have a gay dad. This isn't news to you. Okay, moving on.
Guess what? I love it all.
Okay, good. But that duet is so pleasant, and as you discussed on Seth Meyers, you also inspired the song "Express Yourself."
Well, that's what she told me. I don't know if she'd corroborate that now, but at the time, she most certainly said it to me and said, "Get in my car, listen to this song. It's about you."
She's a Leo, so she meant it. We don't just dole out info like that to people.
Yeah, and the truth is that we were both going through breakups when we became friends. She was breaking up with Sean, I was breaking up with Matthew, and that was how we bonded, was through that girl thing that girls do, which is you kind of what's it called? You kind of pull each other up, and what's it called? Like you're a hype girl, They didn't call it that then, but that's what we were just basically like, you deserve better, you can do better, that kind of thing. And so we were, hyping each other up and getting each other through the rough patches.
Do you ever actually listen to that song and are like extra empowered because it's about you and it's an empowering song?
You know what? I'm going to start putting that in my playlists.
You should.
Just to go like, yeah, that's right.
I'm just saying, like, there in LA, there's this girl's around who inspired the song "My Sharona." I enjoy the song "My Sharona," but "Express Yourself" is like a pop song for the ages during the.
Wait, what makes you think of My Sharona? What made you say
just
that?
because it was inspired by somebody real, you know what I mean? But if I inspired a song that I
is her
consider
name
an A+,
Sharona?
Yes.
Have you met Sharona?
She's around. I've been told she went to high school with my friends. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But just anyway, if something that amazing were named for me, I don't think I would ever get over it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so cynical, and so like I'm always like, okay, well, she did say it for sure, because I'm not someone who would ever make that up. I would be so ashamed. It's just not my thing. So I know it happened. I didn't dream it, but I don't know. Yeah. I sometimes think, did it happen? It seems so wild, but it did. Yeah.
Well, let me say, she definitely meant it. Like I said, she's a Leo. And knowing
are
Madonna,
you a Leo?
No, we're both Leos.
Please.
Yeah.
You stumbled into a den. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
And knowing Madonna, with as many times as you've mentioned, like you inspired, express yourself, if she did not mean that, she would have corrected you.
Oh, yeah. 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 It's true.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here,
Oh my
Jennifer.
God, Jennifer, what a pleasure.
I got to say, Alan Ruck, who's also in Succession, as you know,
Yes.
is
Yes.
one of the greatest people. I've actually did a play with him also. So
Oh, yeah.
he's just like 7 degrees of Alan Ruck for me. Like I'm just there he is again. There he is again. He's one of the greatest guys in the world.
His
One of the
wife is
kindest.
also an A+ actress, Marae
A
Enos.
plus. Yeah. And yeah. Anyways, he's just incredible. Thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for doing so much homework.
Oh, please.
I hope you're
We
not
have a disease where we
exhausted.
can't stop doing the homework. All I want to do is
I
watch this
know.
shit. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's very, very, very impressive.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. No, it was a joy to rewatch old episodes of It's Like You Know, which are only on YouTube, by the way. So
Is that how you
it's
do
not
it?
streaming. Yeah, it's not streaming. But so if you want to go and watch episodes, just look up It's Like You Know on YouTube, and
Yeah,
the whole
I should
season
make
is
my
there.
daughter. I should make my daughter watch it. It's like you watch Friends 700 times. Watch one season, one episode. If it's like would it kill you?
Also, I think you're the only season of Dancing with the Stars that was like soulfully edifying. Like I had to watch every week.
Thank you.
were so good on it. Yeah.
Thank you. Guess what? It was a really big deal. It was a weirdly amazing moment. It was really like when I was told it would change my life, I was like, okay, that's the lamest thing I've ever heard. But it was a big deal, and it was like I remember looking at those videos on YouTube and going like, that's me? How did I do that? There's no way that I ever imagined I could have. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
I picked
thanks
up
for-
the phone to vote for you, which is like I did not think that would be my life, like
Okay.
phoning in for Dancing with the Stars.
If you start stalking me now, because you've been flirting, and now I'm a little worried. Okay.
I'm
Guys are
reciting
the
fake
cutest.
Jewish words outside your window right now. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. You're
Oh
so
my God.
sweet.
Thank you,
Thank
Jennifer.
you.
Thank you.